Meghan and Harry are facing a serious financial obligation. We are talking about substantial sums here. And they could be forced out of Montecito. You know what? Let me explain exactly what actually took place. Word for word. Meghan and Harry, that loan for your Montecito property, if it is not settled within 30 days, I will have no option but to pursue this in court. That was not a leak. That was not speculation. Those were Tyler Perry's words. And the moment he stated them publicly, everything shifted. Because we must be absolutely clear about what this represents. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry could lose the Montecito residence. Not to media gossip, not to online rumor, but to the very man who helped them survive when they first stepped away from the royal family. And here's the point that must be understood. Tyler Perry is not financially vulnerable. He is a billionaire. He owns his studios. He controls his enterprise. So when a man of that standing signals legal action, it is not posturing. It is the final mechanism. You do not make a declaration of this nature unless private requests were disregarded, unless messages went unanswered, unless patience was exhausted. So, the real revelation is not that Tyler Perry spoke. The real question is why he finally believed he had no alternative. Now, let us return to 2020 so the sequence becomes clear. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry depart Canada abruptly. Security concerns, reported threats, no established U.S. base. This is where Tyler Perry quietly intervenes. He provides access to his Beverly Hills home, arranges security. At the time, it was presented as generosity, a Hollywood power figure assisting a couple in transition. But generosity alone does not explain what followed. According to sources, that support did not end when they moved out. It evolved into funding. I mean, large amounts of funding. Allegedly, millions of dollars used to facilitate the Montecito purchase. Specifically, the down payment shortfall was arranged informally without public paperwork because the situation was urgent. No contracts splashed across headlines, no public statements, just trust. Tyler Perry, by most accounts, believed he was helping friends establish stability. But here is the reality few want to acknowledge. You do not lend millions to people who present themselves as financially independent. You lend millions to those who genuinely require it. And when repayments slow, when messages go unanswered, when interviews become distant, when patience expires, the relationship changes. This is where the narrative ceases to be cordial. Because according to insiders cited throughout the record, the issue was not that the loan existed. The issue was that repayment decelerated and then stopped. And when money stops moving, relationships reveal their truth. Tyler Perry did not suddenly become hostile. He did not reverse course overnight. He withdrew. Public comments shifted tone. Questions about his assistants were deflected. Multiple outlets referenced in the transcript point to ignored reminders, unanswered calls, and a growing perception that Perry was being taken for granted, not as a friend, but as a contingency plan. This was not about personal offense. This was about respect. Because when someone lends you millions informally, the minimum currency is communication. And once that collapses, the only remaining language is enforcement. That is how you move from benefactor Perry to creditor and finally to the man prepared to say it openly on air. And here's the central fact many continue to miss. Tyler Perry did not speak when they were prospering. He spoke when the money evaporated. Which leads us to why repayment became problematic. Let us dispense with illusion immediately. Yes, Netflix signed Harry and Meghan. Yes, Spotify signed them. But contracts are not cash flow. Spotify collapsed first, a reported $20 million deal. Cancelled, minimal output, executive conflict, public criticism. Bill Simmons did not imply it. He called them grifters publicly. Netflix continued longer, but the structural weaknesses were evident. The initial documentary surged, but we know initial curiosity always does that. Then came decline. Subsequent projects underperformed. Follow-ups failed with Love Meghan barely registering. By 2025, certain titles were not even entering the top 300. Here is the uncomfortable reality. The Sussex brand sold attention, not durability. And attention does not service long-term debt. When projected millions fail to materialize, financial pressure escalates quickly. Especially with a $14 million mortgage. Six-figure annual property taxes, full-time private security, staff salaries, image maintenance. That is when repayment arrangements quietly disintegrate. And that is when lenders begin observing one another closely. Here is the truth Hollywood was reluctant to articulate. After Megxit, there was no royal safety net, no duchy funding, no discreet security underwriting, no emergency intervention. King Charles closed the faucet. Prince William closed ranks. And whatever goodwill once existed vanished after the memoirs, the interviews, and the scorched earth media campaign. This matters more than many realize because when you attack the institution you departed, you do not retain the option to call quietly when liabilities accumulate. And by 2024, the Sussexes were isolated. No palace buffer, no behind-the-scenes assistance, no one prepared to intervene privately. So when Hollywood financing began to falter, there was no invisible force left to arrest the decline. Which means when Tyler Perry demanded repayment, there was nowhere else to turn. No safety net, no cavalry, only deadlines. Let us be absolutely clear about what Tyler Perry's ultimatum actually implies. Court is not about emotion. Court is about disclosure. That means financial records, loan terms, emails, messages, tax filings, asset statements. And here is the element that should concern anyone involved. If one private loan reaches litigation, the others follow into view. Every informal arrangement, every temporary advance, every pledge tied to future ventures. This is not about a single residence. This is about whether the entire independence narrative withstands exposure. Because once disclosure begins, there is no editing, no public relations framing, no selective withholding. And the Montecito property, it becomes evidence, collateral, a $20 million asset placed under increasing scrutiny. That is why this is not merely a legal threat. It is a challenge to the story itself. Observe what has not occurred. There has been no denial, no definitive statement, no documentation produced to close this down. Only silence. And in financial conflict, silence does not signal confidence. It signals strategy. Sources familiar with the matter indicate urgent asset reviews, jewelry, inheritances, residuals, possible divestments. Because when liquidity is scarce and litigation approaches, access to cash becomes survival. Meanwhile, Hollywood is observing. Other reported creditors are watching because if Tyler Perry is prepared to act publicly, no one wants to be the last party waiting quietly. This is how financial cascades begin. One voice disrupts the quiet. The rest follow. Now we move from personal finances to institutional deterioration. Because the moment Archwell began to weaken, everything else followed. According to filings and reports cited in the transcript, expenditures expanded beyond $5 million. Contributions fell to approximately $2 million. Staff were reduced. Regulatory scrutiny increased. Late notices appeared before being addressed. But addressed does not mean erased. Audits do not respond to branding. They respond to figures. And insiders alleged blurred boundaries between personal living costs, foundation expenses, property usage. When auditors arrive, accounts halt. When accounts halt, lenders become anxious. That is not conjecture. That is finance. And once Archwell's revenue slowed, the sequence was set. Streaming income underperformed. The foundation tightened. Private creditors waited. Silence intensified. So when Tyler Perry finally spoke publicly, it was not random. It was strategic. Because when funding dries up across every channel, someone always moves first. And once one creditor steps forward, others begin tallying. The Montecito estate still appears serene from the outside. The gardens still bloom. The coastline still shimmers. The gates still close behind luxury vehicles. But property does not respond to narrative. It records figures. Every unpaid balance is written into the structure. Every favor-turned liability remains in the quiet. Every ignored notice resonates louder after dark. This residence was meant to symbolize autonomy. Instead, it became evidence that autonomy was financed. And financed things always carry terms. Tyler Perry did not dismantle a dream. He revealed the price of one. Because independence constructed on borrowing is not independence, it is postponement. And postponement always concludes the same way, with a reckoning. Time is moving. Creditors are observing. And whether this resolves through court, forced liquidation, or private settlements, one fact is already established. The Montecito mansion was never the start of their freedom. It was the invoice. And this story is not finished. It has simply stopped pretending.